Hey guys, I just wanted to provide another slightly cheesy, but not really cheesy, more real answer as to why you go through suffering, or why you go through what you might consider to be intolerable suffering or unfair suffering, because everybody goes through suffering. It's part of life. It's part of learning lessons. It's part of having contrast, all of that, right? But the tolerable, reasonable degree versus what we consider trauma, right? Why did you go through trauma? Other than the fact that the world is unfair and all the other schemas, because all of that is true. From what I would like to think is a higher perspective, the download that I got from Source when I asked this question myself, amongst other answers, but this is the part that I'm going to focus on today, is the warrior mindset. And when you have a mission, the chosen ones and the missions and things like that are very real things. A lot of people assume it because it is more pleasurable to place yourself in that paradigm than to feel like a victim to the world. So there's that side of it. Of course, it's very practical, but it's a very real thing. A lot of people have gone into their Akashic records, myself included, and been able to see the past lives, or been able to see the point where you've made a deal. I have had, and I spoke about this in another video that I'll link underneath when I'm finished with this one, but I have actually had a regression and Akashic records dig with a friend who does hypnotherapy professionally, and seen my personal deal. I've seen the dialogue, I've seen the quote unquote people, entities, etc., that I have made the deals with, and making the deal with Source. I also have an astral travel video where Source spoke to me audibly in my astral body, or if you don't believe in that, what would be considered to be a very lucid dream, depending on what frame of reference you're coming from, but I believe it was in my astral body. And it's not an isolated phenomenon. There are a lot of people who actually go through these very deep, detailed, rich descriptions of being able to see it, and then when they enact it out, they receive their blessings and they receive confirmation and all of that as well. So the higher perspective on why you go through this, especially if you're getting really deep down into the trenches, this is going to sound cheesy, but it's going to make sense in a minute, is because you are incredibly powerful. And I'm going to talk about this from a practical alchemical level in a minute, but it's because you're very powerful and one of the most powerful, and there is a direct balance in the mirror universe that we are living in. When order is not restored, when you are in the untruth, the more amoral you are, and the more apathetic you are, and the more traumatized you are, and the darker situations you are in, when you mirror and balance that alchemically on the other side, that means that you are meant to shoot up higher. So if you're the lowest of the low, I believe the lowest is the highest is also a principle that Western ideology, Christianity, speaks about as well. When you're the lowest of the low of that pyramid, we talk about this with high school hierarchies as well. When you flip the pyramid the other way, you're the highest of the high. And that is actually true, because what is going on energetically with that is the ability to raise the vibration of the planet, but also your ability to alchemize more energy stores than what would be available if you started higher up in this system. So the lower down you start, the more chaotic, dark, bad, whatever antithesis energy, whatever name you put to that energy, you're accumulating more of it, which means when you alchemize it the other way, you have greater energy stores than the average person. So this goes in line with what a lot of psychologists and motivational speakers talk about when they say that, you're blessed in the dark places, or that, you rise to the top, or you're meant to be a leader, whatever it is. There's an alchemical reason for that, for two reasons. So for yourself, it is that you're accumulating richer, denser, heavier energy that is compacted and it expands, right? Because when you raise your vibration, speaking from a physical level, in the physical universe and the non-physical universe, your energy expands exponentially. So it's like when you eat rich cheese, right? You can only eat little bits of it here and there, and it's meant to be paired with something, because that little tiny amount of cheese is so richly and densely packed with flavor that you don't need a lot of it, because it is the equivalent to larger stores of energy, right? So relating that back, a whole block of regular processed cheese cannot compare to that tiny little bit that's here. Why? Because there's so much energy packed into it. So lower vibrational dense energy, chaotic energy, is actually the key to unleashing very powerful energy stores, because it's already densely packed, tightly packed. And when you alchemize it the other way, it's very infinitely expansive. So that energy's antithesis is the most powerful energy in the universe. Now, what happens when you're a starseed that gets placed in those very, very, very dark trenches is you're accumulating more of that dense energy, that richer energy, the same way that we describe food, right? Or even women. When we say women are thick, it just means that she could be very densely packed with muscle and, like, you know, really heavy legs or whatever, or that she has bigger energy stores in certain places, right? The reason why we use that terminology is because it's a lot in a little bit of space. So that being said, when you're a starseed that comes here, you can't really alchemize the planet unless you're put into the darker situations. You can. I'm not going to say that you can't entirely, because there are starseeds working at every level, and a problem needs to be attacked from every level, which it is. But most of the time, this is why you see the common theme I spoke about in the other video, that starseeds tend to be put in very dark situations, because the higher up you come from in those higher realms, or those heaven realms, the lower you're going to be placed down here, because you're going to be more effective and you have the capacity. The higher up you came, the greater capacity you have to attack the problems that other people might not be able to tackle, other starseeds might not be able to tackle. And it's not that they're not capable, it's just not what they were designed to do. So you might have been part of the luck of the draw, that is what you were designed to do. You were designed to alchemize chaos. So I think coming to terms with the fact that you might be of that stock or of that creation is going to help you a lot. You know, it's very akin to reconciling the fact that you may be a warrior god, or the seed of a warrior god, or the seed of warrior energy, however you want to explain it. There are people where that is the case, that when you manifest any physical human form, that is your purpose, and you'll come into alignment with that and find peace and happiness with it. And from my personal experience, definitely receive a lot of blessings in tandem with that, when you can realize your purpose. So if you're one of the ones dealing with the darker issues, it's because, not to be haughty and conceited and boastful, but it is because you come from an energetic stock that is very close to source energy and very high up in those realms, and you're implanted in a situation here where you are essentially an infinite entity inciting phagocytosis against all of that richly, densely packed, chaotic energy. Because when you have, again, the cheese reference, right? When you have that tiny little dot of infinity energy versus all of that chaotic energy, this is still more powerful. It's still more rich. So it's going to naturally eat away at that darkness. And the stronger and richer your energy is, the more it's going to eat away at that other energy. So phagocytosis in biology is cellular eating, right? So just a quick little reference to that. That is when a cell essentially opens up and swallows another cell in order to eat it. And that is what you're doing as a starseed when you're here. You're literally here to eat darkness for breakfast. You know, so in your healed state, when you recognize that, it becomes a very fun game, and there's not this suffering and negative attachment associated with it. It's very much like Kali energy in Hinduism as well. You know, it's benevolent destruction. And no, I'm not saying anarchy and go wreak havoc in society, but it's a natural state of your high vibrational being to eat away at dark energy. You will literally consume it. This is why I want to get Majin Buu prints on my car, because you will literally eat that power and turn it into something else, but you have to swallow it first. And that's the first phase of what happens when you come here as a star seed, is you're sitting in the middle of the trenches, swallowing and embodying and becoming that energy. So now it's contained within you. So you're essentially capturing and kidnapping that energy. You're taking your first job, this is a really weird way to explain it, but your first job is actually to become narcissistic supply, because you need to have that energy exchange where you're giving away your high vibrational energy, because that's what darkness wants to eat, and then replacing it within yourself with all of that dark negativity that gets programmed in you from childhood, that gets programmed in you from the fallen society, all of that sort of stuff. So you're taking it in so you can create a cage and contain all of that darkness. Your job is to swallow it. That's a really, not pleasant way to describe it, I guess, because nobody wants to have to reconcile the fact that, hey, your job was to become darkness and to go through it, right? Because it's not a preferred experience. But your first phase is to contain the energy within you and capture it into that little ball and then do something with it. But if you were not placed in that situation and you were not swallowing all of that energy that your family couldn't take, that society was going down the drain because of, if you didn't first contain that energy, it would still be out there circulating and permeating and expanding and all of that. But now it's in you and it has a finite container. And then once it's in you, when you turn it into something else, you destroy it. So now you've taken away the cycle of exponential recreation in the universe. And once you contain it within yourself, phase 2 is to take away that exponential recreation that would happen if you were to continue acting it out and continue expanding and embodying that energy. And then you turn it into something else. So now you've actually dissipated it from this reality. So you've raised your vibration, and then you've raised the vibration of the planet exponentially as well. Because if you were sitting in that middle line, or you were sitting in the preferred reality when you came here, you wouldn't have as much darkness to work with. So all the darkness that sits below that middle line and all that trauma that sits below the middle line in society never gets alchemized, because if you're positioning all of your people to never contend with that energy, then that energy never gets contended with, and it continues to expand and multiply in the world. So when you come here on a mission, you're going to be put in dark places, and the darker places that you have been put in allows for greater exponential expanse of powerful source energy. So I hope that is an encouragement to somebody else, but you have to at least get your mind. The first thing is to get your mind beyond the fact that darkness has any kind of power. Alone and uncontrolled and unchecked, it has tons of power. That's why we see it manifest the way that it does. But when you flip the script that you are here to contend with that energy, that you are destined to contend with that energy and to take it down, it becomes a very different game being played. And thinking that you are more powerful than darkness is the first step to overcoming it. There's no physical action necessarily that is required. In fact, most of us who are spiritual understand that most of the work you do is through your awareness and your consciousness and your emotion, and not particularly the 3D action that you're taking. And this is why personally I'm thankful for even non-spiritual and non-religious people, secular motivational speakers, psychologists, things like that, because they are all playing their proper part in the layer, because not everybody is meant to be as deeply awakened as you, and not everybody is meant to see the layers and the paradigms that you are. So everybody is working where they are supposed to. And I think just reconciling where you know you're supposed to be working is going to be enough. I also, this is a separate little tangent I want to touch on because it came up in my mind, but also stop trying to wake up other people. Give people information and let them do with it what they will or what they won't. Because not everybody is meant to be awake, and not everybody is meant to be deeply awake. But if people want to naturally watch your content or ask you questions when you're out and about or have dialogue with you, that's great. But I would say just release the information out into the universe and let it fall where, let the chips fall where they may. But I digress. So back on topic, if you're deep in the trenches, truly understand that from a poetic justice, balanced, universal, energetic perspective, you are meant to be sitting on the top. And the longer you choose not to contend with that energy, the longer you delay your destiny and choose fate.